Now, let's start with the larger picture. What is the actual role of finance and markets in our society today and through history? How are investment decisions made, and how important are environmental, social, and governance factors in these decisions? I now invite you all to lend ears to Martin Skancke, chair of the PRI, the Principles for Responsible Investments. This is a global organization promoting responsible investment practices with close to 5,000 financial institutions as signatories. One financial institution that he knows particularly well is the Norwegian Government Pension Fund Global, as he was responsible for overseeing its activities for several years on behalf of the Norwegian Ministry of Finance. Now he is ready, from his office in Oslo, to give us the broader picture of the finance sector and the role and involvement in the energy transition. So Martin, I hope we can see you somewhere and that you are ready, because I am ready to leave the digital scene to you. And to get a good start, we're going to give you a round warm of applause from the studio here in Trondheim. Go ahead.
Thank you so much for that very kind introduction, and thank you for the invitation to join you today. I'll start by just recognizing that you're asking a question in the title of this this session, which is it greenwashing or is it for real? So I'm sorry for spoiling the excitement, but the answer is it's for real. So there can be no question about that. It is for real and it is important. I think a useful starting point for understanding what this really is about is understanding the central role of the financial sector in a market economy. The role of the financial markets is what economists call to allocate capital. And in practical terms, that means deciding which companies, which types of activities get financed. And investors like the oil fund, and Karine will be coming on afterwards, of course, make decisions about which companies to invest in. Banks and other financial institutions make decisions about lending and which kind of companies they will contribute to financing. So that's their role. And how is this linked to the energy transition? Well, we know that we need to make a transition to a low-carbon economy. That has to happen. What we don't know is whether that transformation will happen through a transformation of existing companies or by building down existing companies or building new ones. So will the energy companies of the future be today's fossil fuel companies that have reinvented themselves as renewable energy companies? Will tomorrow's car producers be today's car producers who have reinvented themselves to become leaders in electric vehicles, or will newcomers like Tesla dominate? And the answer is probably that there will be a mix of both. Some companies will be able to transform themselves and make money in a low-carbon economy. Others will not. And the tricky task for investors is to make an informed judgment about which those companies are that are able to transform themselves and make money in a low-carbon economy. So what should you do if you're an investor, for instance, in a fossil fuel company? Well, you should try to understand whether this company, this particular company, has a strategy that's viable, that will allow them to thrive in a low-carbon economy. If you're convinced that they will be able to do that, you would be happy to let that company reinvest the money they're making today in their own company. If you don't believe that this company will be able to make that transition, you should, as an investor, keep pressure on the company to be disciplined in their use of capital and pay out more in dividends to you as an investor, so you can reinvest in something else that you think is more robust and more likely to make money in a low-carbon economy. So that's the reallocation of capital in practice. It's making sure that we take money out of the companies that don't have viable strategies for transformation and reinvest in companies that have those strategies. And this is an assessment that has to be made at the individual company level. And that is the role of financial institutions, of investors and banks and other financial institutions. In order to do this, investors need good corporate reporting. And I think this is a core area where a lot has happened over the last couple of years. I've been involved in a work called the Task Force on Climate-Related Financial Disclosures, or TCFD. And we have developed a reporting framework for climate-related risks and opportunities. And I think a core element of that is that this framework asks companies to stress test their business models. We ask explicitly about whether this company will be able to make money with its current business model in a world that has met the climate objectives. So we talk about the resilience of corporate strategies under various scenarios, including a 2 degree or lower scenario. So in plain English, how will you make money with your business model in a world that's successful in meeting the climate objectives? And that's a very challenging question to ask, for instance, of a fossil fuel company, because it forces that company to articulate what that transition strategy looks like for that particular company. And it gives the investors an opportunity to scrutinize the strategies that the company has and make an informed judgment of whether they think this is a credible, plausible strategy. And that in turn will affect how investors think about dividends and capital allocation. Would you be willing to put more money into this company, or do you want to take money out of this company? So this is the core of the so-called TCFD framework. It's really about stress testing of business models. And it's important to understand that this is about strategies. The TCFD is about companies. It's not about activities. It's not about the robustness of your current portfolio of projects. But it looks at the company as a portfolio of projects or activities. And the company is a platform for accessing value creation from those companies. And the framework is forward-looking. It looks at corporate strategies and how robust those strategies are. So that's a very sort of tangible way for investors to try to get a better understanding of the robustness of strategies. And we see now that investors are coming together, they're exercising ownership jointly, and they're putting pressure on companies to report more on their climate risk management strategies, on the robustness of their business models, on their emissions, on their transition strategies, etc. So these ownership strategies work. And I think a lot of the initiatives that we've seen from companies in the fossil fuel sector and other sectors can be directly attributed to investor action. So I think I'll stop there for the moment, and then we can maybe come back to some of these issues in the discussion. Thank you.